Hello and welcome to the Football Hipsters podcast, brought to you in partnership with classicfootballshirts.co.uk, where you can find all your lovely goodies if you are a football shirt collector. But whether you're a full hipster or indeed a classic collector, they will have something for you. I am your host, Chris, and there's only two of us here tonight. The rats have deserted the ship. Not the sinking ship, I might add. We're very much afloat, but we're floating even higher on the tides this week because there is only me and John. So, hello, John.
Evening, Chris. You all right?
I am indeed, yes. We're going to sort of fudge our way through a little bit this week because schedules have killed Gav. So he hasn't left after 1 week. He wasn't sick of us, I promise. But no, he's self-employed, so he's had to be called into work today, unfortunately. So Gav will hopefully be back next week. He sends his apologies. And from what I can gather, the feedback was good, wasn't it, John? I think people seem to like having Gav on board. So
certainly better than us when he's talking about Spain. Yeah.
Yes, just as we are about to talk about Spain again. And Drew, unfortunately, is not with us either. He was sent home from work ill. So he might possibly make an appearance later on, but we're not tying him to it. So we've sort of said see how he feels later on. So,
we wish him a happy birthday, though.
Oh, yes, we must. Yes, happy birthday, Drew, if you're listening in. So, yes, he turns 21 again today for the I think it's the 8th time. So, happy birthday, Drew. Right, that's all the admin out the way. Let's crack on with the show. And as we've just mentioned, we're going to start this week in La Liga. It's the Spanish update. Right, John, I'm going to kind of start with you for almost like a big three update because I know people like us to talk about sort of some of the other clubs, but frankly, Gav is a better man than us to go into too much depth. So I'll try and fudge my way through the lower end of things, and you can take the high road, if you will. So it's kind of as you were, really, at the top of La Liga, is it not? Because there was some midweek action, we have to say. Real Madrid drew with Las Palmas 3-3, which was a bit of a shock. That was a absolutely nuts game of football, by the way. At one point, Las Palmas were 3-1 up. Gareth Bale was sent off, and then Ronaldo scored twice in the last 3 minutes, and they salvaged a draw. Meanwhile, Barcelona were humping Sporting Gijón 6-1. And more on that game in a little while, because there was obviously an announcement that came out of that, which we will discuss in a second. Sevilla with a close 1-0 victory over Athletic Club Bilbao in the week. So that was as you were. And then we came into the weekend. Real Madrid winning 4-1 away at Eibar. A couple of goals there for Karim Benzema, as well as Marco Asensio and James Rodriguez with the others. Barcelona won 5-0 against Celta Vigo. Comfortable there. A couple of goals for Messi. First goal for Samuel Umtiti. Always nice to see there. And Atletico Madrid won 3-0 against Valencia on the Sunday. Sevilla have yet to play. They play Deportivo Alaves tonight. So we don't know how they're getting on yet, but if they were to win, it's as you were. So what do we make of this turn of events in the week then? Barcelona are now top of La Liga. Now, we have to say Real Madrid have got a game in hand, but is this a sign that things are returning? If Sevilla win tonight, by the way, they will be only a point behind. So 2 points separate the top three if Sevilla wins. So what do you reckon to the weekend's top three or top four action?
Well, it's good in terms of excitement for the league because for a long time it looked like Real Madrid kind of had it all sewn up, and then, like you said, that crazy game midweek with the poor results, Bale coming back and then getting sent off, and Ronaldo with the sort of 2 last-minute goals to salvage a point, and it really was salvaging a point at that late stage of the game. And Barca took full advantage of it, and it's a Barcelona team that haven't been playing their best this season. I don't think we've seen their best. We saw the Champions League game against PSG where PSG were absolutely fantastic in the game. I think they got their tactics spot on and really put on a show. But for as good as they were, Barcelona were very poor and not the sort of performance you'd expect from a Barca team. And maybe that shook them up a little bit and woke them up. And now that they're top of the league, they seem to have responded. The game this weekend against Celta Vigo, who aren't having a bad season themselves. I think you'd always expect Barca to win when they're at home. unless it's against the Madrid or Sevilla or someone, one of the real top teams. But the way they played and the goals they scored was a lot more vintage Barcelona. Messi, who really didn't turn up in the Champions League against PSG, was absolutely sublime in the game, and it was vintage Messi. And where in sort of this season and a little bit last season, he looked like he kind of lost half a step in pace, which doesn't matter too much when you've got his skill and ability on the ball when he's so hard to shift off it. He seemed to have that kick of gear again, and Neymar playing much better as well. You said Umtiti getting his first goal. The Rakitic, the Rakitic goal was offside, but it really didn't matter in the game because Barca could have scored so many more. There was some ridiculous interplay, and the 1-2s around the box was just absolutely fantastic. And with the Champions League coming up, it's interesting because I think Barca's biggest problem has been this season and past few years has been their defence, and that will still be a worry against PSG. But because the forwards just didn't get involved in the game, they look completely out of it. Now, if they can play like that against PSG at home, I'm not saying it's likely, because obviously being 4 goals down there's a big ask, and I think PSG have got enough to at least get a goal at the Nou Camp. But the way they took Celta Vigo apart and just ripped past the defence, and the way that Messi and Neymar were playing, it all of a sudden puts a little bit of a different dimension on the game, and I just wonder if there's a tiny glimmer of hope now for them coming up in that. As for Real Madrid, their performance was much better this weekend than to midweek. Interestingly, I thought Benzema and Rodriguez were probably 2 of the better players on the pitch. They linked up really well. There was a lot of talk about Rodriguez leaving and maybe being sold, but he put in a really, really good performance in this. And Marco Asensio as well, who I know Tom obviously previously when he was on the pod had spoken about him. You've spoken about him a few times as well. Looked really, really good. Looks the real talent of a player. So very exciting to see what you get from him. And it's important for them as well because they need to, although they're ahead obviously in their tie with Napoli coming up in the Champions League, going to Naples is a very different proposition to playing at the Bernabeu. So they've got to be tight at the back, and defensively they looked a lot more solid than I've seen them.
Yeah, some good points there. I suppose I know we're predicting things a bit, but do you expect Sevilla to go and turn over Deportivo Alaves? I mean, Alaves are 11th coming into the game tonight. I presume you would expect Sampaoli's men to go there and win, I guess.
Yeah, you would expect that, but then, the result of the weekend, they only got a 1-0. It was a penalty, if I remember correctly, in that game against Bilbao. Oh, no, sorry, it wasn't. It wasn't scored from the penalty. The penalty was saved from...
That's right.
I think, was it Jovetic who took the penalty?
Yes.
And Iborra the captain, got the rebound tapping. So, they created chances, but they weren't as clinical as they have been. I still expect them to win, but I don't think it's going to be an easy game. Alaves have shown these times this season that they've been decent performers. Excuse me. But it's so nice now to see. It's strange that of all the leagues around Europe, normally it's, La Liga's a 2-horse race and that's it. France is just PSG, that's it. The Premier League's the really tight one where you get lots of teams battling it out. Italy is just Juventus, nobody else. Germany is just Bayern Munich. But across the leagues, it's actually a lot tighter. And the Premier League is the one that's got the sort of clear front runner who looks like just miles above everyone else. So it's all kind of flipped and reversed. So to see that many teams going at it for the league title is really exciting. And also a quick word for Atletico as well. The midweek game, obviously you saw the horrible injury to Torres, the concussion. There was some really nice banners and stuff in the crowd, and interesting as well to see Antoine Griezmann getting close to some of the form you saw him showing for France in the Euros, because he was really, really superb and on fire in that game.
Scored a belter in midweek as well in that Torres game. Actually, a long range lob in that 1-1 draw, which I think they probably would be disappointed to not win. Deportivo, the new coach, bounce, I suppose, in that one. Yes, I think you make some good points. The Champions League side of things, I still think PSG will have enough, because I still stand by the idea that they will score.
I agree. I think they've got enough to get a goal, which obviously then makes it very difficult. But if Barca if that front three can sort of get that kind of movement, then they've definitely got a chance. Suarez didn't even get on the score sheet in this game against Celta Vigo, and obviously, yes, granted, PSG's defence is better than Celta's, and they've been playing a lot better in the league as well recently. But it just looked so much more like the Messi that, when he's on form, he's just completely unplayable. Some of the passes and the vision, like, you just have no idea where the ball's going to go. There's things you can't see with the camera panned out, and you can see the whole pitch, and you still can't see the pass that he's spotted and the runs and stuff. So, really impressive stuff. I mean, I hope for the sake of the game. I know obviously you'll be cheering PSG on, but I hope that Barca do get an early goal and sort of have a bit of impetus, maybe one or two, just to give it a bit more excitement. Because if it goes on too long and they haven't scored, then it kind of becomes a bit of a drab affair, and I think players their heads will drop a little bit and think, well, this is gone now. We don't really need to put the effort in.
I think bums will be a flapping if that happens in PSG's camp, particularly if there's a couple of early goals. Just quickly before we have a quick look at some of the other teams a bit lower down the league, Luis Enrique announcing that he will be leaving Barcelona. I think he said he was mentally drained, he was tired. We've heard this before with Pep Guardiola saying the same sort of things. Do you think he'll take a year off, or do you think he'll come back with another club? And B, who do you think Barcelona will target? Because there's a lot of names being floated around, and I know obviously there's a lot of talk about Arsenal's potential managerial situation. There's a lot of talk about Massimo Allegri going to Arsenal. Would he not fancy a little stab at Barcelona as well, a manager of that calibre, if the opportunity arose?
It has been spoken about, and he's been fairly, not coy on it, but he's basically said it's kind of down to Juventus, despite the fact he's got a year left. So he's in a comfortable position where he can kind of say, well, I'm still here, I've got a year left on my contract, but it's down to the club. But they don't necessarily need to offer him one, so it's in this very strange position. I think it's hard to say he would prefer the Premier League, the Arsenal job, say, over the Barcelona job. And obviously at the moment Arsenal still have a manager, so there's not even a position there. We know there is one at Barca, but of the names I've seen mentioned, Allegri's certainly the one with the most pedigree. I saw Ronald Koeman was one that was mentioned. I get that because of the link with Barca, but for me, I don't think he's there yet in terms of management experience. There was talks of Spalletti, which seemed maybe a little bit too far. As for Enrique himself, I really don't know what he's going to do. I think he's a very good manager, and I feel a little bit sorry for him, to be honest, because taking that job on after the things that Guardiola had done there, and obviously Tito Vinilola were there before, but it's not an easy job to do, Barcelona, and it clearly is a very demanding one. You saw what he did to Pep, and you've seen what he's done to Luis Enrique, and despite the quality of the forwards in that team, there is a problem defensively that hasn't been addressed and has been going for a while. And there does seem to be a kind of a sort of changing of the guard in terms of players there. So I'm not surprised that he's gone. I still think he'll have plenty of offers from very big teams. But as to who takes the Barca job, I don't know. I do honestly think, though, I don't think Arsene Wenger is in the running. Even if he was to come out and say, I'm not managing Arsenal next season, I'm not sure Barcelona would go for him, to be perfectly honest. I think people's sort of opinion of him as a manager has changed somewhat. I still think he's more of a Real Madrid target than he is a Barcelona one, if anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. A little bit of story about Inter Milan recently as well, which is a really strange one, but I don't think that's going to happen. But Luis Enrique's next stop will be an interesting watch, as indeed will the next Barcelona manager. But there is the quick roundabout, obviously, of if Allegri did take the Barca job, then there's rumours that Spalletti would then take Juventus, so Enrique could then go back to Roma. Yeah, that really would be a change about, wouldn't it? Yeah, and there's some talk about Jardim's future at Monaco as well, which is another place you could see Enrique rocking up at Monaco, for example. So, could be an interesting summer for managerial merry-go-rounds. We'll just run through a couple of the results then and pick out some stories. The other midweek results, Sociedad drew with Eibar at home 2-2, a couple of goals for Juan Mi in that one. Goal for Juan Mi and a sending off, I should say, and a couple of sendings off, I meant to say. Lejeune was also sent off for Ibar. Carlos Vela with a penalty there. Malaga lost at home to Betis. Sanabria with a winner there. Valencia won, I know, shock. 1-0 as well. Mangala with the winner. Villarreal going down at home to Osasuna, going down at home to Villarreal. Goal for Roberto Soldado, who's making his comeback penalty there in that game. 4-1 win for Villarreal. Espanyol and Vigo drew 2-2. Another goal for Iago Aspas in that one. Another goal for Daniel Vaz as well, a player I quite like. Granada with a 2-1 victory over Alaves. Wakaso and Cuenca ended up with the winning goal in that one. And then on the Thursday, Atletico Madrid we mentioned drew with Deportivo 1-1. Sevilla we've mentioned. And then on to the weekend's action, Betis and Sociedad had a thriller on Friday night. 3-2 victory for Sociedad. One goal in the odd goal in 5. Isa Mandi on the score sheet for Betis, but it wasn't enough. Xabi Prieto getting the winner in that 3-2. Leganés with a 1-0 victory over Granada. Late victory, actually. Marquis with the late winner. Villarreal winning again over Espanyol. Soriano and Bakambu on the score sheet there. And in the Sunday action, Deportivo won away at Sporting Gijón. Pedro Mosquera with the winner there. Atletico Madrid, we mentioned, 3-0 victory. 2 goals for Griezmann in that one. Las Palmas went goal crazy. First couple of goals for Hesse on his return to the Sunshine Island there. 5-2 victory over Osasuna. So good result for them. And Bilbao, with a 1-0 victory over Malaga in the late game. Not a thriller by any stretch of the imagination. Penalty from Raul Garcia getting the points. And as we say, Deportivo Alaves play Sevilla tonight. So where does that leave us in the table then? Well, Barcelona are top, as we say. 1 point clear of Real Madrid with a game in hand, Real, though. 60 points for Barca, 59 for Real Madrid. Sevilla, 55 points, but the opportunity to go to 58 with a win tonight. Atletico Madrid back on 49 in 4th. Sociedad, Villarreal, Bilbao and Eibar go down to 8th, with Espanyol 9th and Vigo 10th. Alaves sitting in 11th, Las Palmas 12th. Valencia up to 13th with a couple of wins of late. Betis, Malaga and Leganés go down to 13th, 14th, 15th and 16th. Deportivo La Coruña still struggling down in 17th, but there is a gap, 4 points for Granada in 18th on 19 points. Sporting Gijón 17 points in 19th place, and Osasuna cut adrift 10 points from their 26 games played, 7 points adrift of Sporting Gijón. They're down and bottom 20th. It doesn't look like they're about to turn their form around. Should we try and cobble together a game for people to look out for? What would Gav pick, do we think?
I'm not sure what Gav would pick, but I like the look of Espanyol Las Palmas on Friday, the Friday evening game.
That is proper hipster's choice. I like that.
That is 9th v 12th, I believe. The little La Liga that I do see, when I have watched those two teams, I do enjoy watching them.
Yeah, Las Palmas are always a fun watch, aren't they? I must admit. And the only other one I'd look at, Deportivo Barcelona, not so much because obviously the two teams are at completely opposite ends of the spectrum at the moment in form, but it's usually a classic fixture. Vigo Villarreal might be decent as well. So some good watches this weekend in La Liga. So we've done our best to fudge our way through this week. If you've got questions, please send them to Gav, because he'll give you a much better answer than we will, and hopefully he'll be back next week. So you can tweet those two at La Liga Gav, and he'll do his best to answer them, I'm sure. Right, we'll leave Spain behind then for another week. We're going to go off to John's neck of the woods next, as we go to Italy and this week's Serie A. Okay, John. Only one place to start, really, I think it's fair to say, this weekend, and that will be between the massive game, Roma and Napoli. A lot of journalists I listened to, a lot of people were saying that this was, if there was ever a game for Roma to prove their title credentials, it was to win this one, and if there was ever a game for Napoli to get their sort of faltering season of late back on track, it was to be the first, I think I'm right in saying the first club to even take a point off of Roma in the home games this year. And that's exactly what they did. They took all three, but it wasn't without incident and a brilliant stoppage time save from Pepe Reina. Yeah,
it was definitely the best game of the weekend. Probably the two most exciting teams to watch in Serie A this season. Napoli in particular. They were just superb in this game, and it really was a case of Roma kind of holding on a little bit at times. I think Napoli will, they're obviously very, very, very pleased with the result, but will be a little bit disappointed they didn't score more goals, because they really did open Roma up quite a few times. Callahan, Mertens playing through the middle again, and Insigne and Mertens in particular were just outstanding first half, heavily as well. Insigne so quick, the interplay between the two of them, two wonderful goals from Dries Mertens. The celebration for the first, oh god, I'm trying to remember. Is it George Findy in the '94 World Cup? I think
Finidi
it was
George for Nigeria, USA '94. I remember it well.
Yes, the old dog cocking the leg at the corner flag celebration, and it was actually for him. It wasn't just a copy and doing it like as a bet or anything else. He tweeted out that it was in honour of him at the '94 World Cup. So yeah, strange celebration, but Napoli were just outstanding in this game, and it gives them kind of a bit of hope for the Real Madrid game coming up in the Champions League. There was a bit of rotation. Zielinski was taken out of midfield. Jorginho was brought in. Diawara as well, who's been quite a mainstay for the majority of the season. He was taken out as well, so managed to even get some rotation within the squad. As for Roma, they just looked a little bit jaded. In previous seasons, we said this, that towards the end of the season they kind of drop off a little bit, don't they, in terms of tempo. But it was weird because in the game they actually got better towards the end of it, and they got the late goal from Kevin Strootman, and it was actually Napoli who were fading a little bit. And then, as you say, Pepe Reina pulled off an absolutely fabulous save in what must have been injury time in the game to prevent Roma from getting a point, just changing direction mid-air, and just managed to get a fingertip on it to push it onto the crossbar, and then as it came down, clear it out as it sort of fell at his feet. Well worth looking up, but really, really exciting game, and pretty much the result that Juventus would have wanted, to be honest, out of this, because Napoli had lost the previous weekend against Atalanta, which was a big surprise result. If they'd won that, they would have been closer to Juve, so Juve were basically happy with either a draw or a Napoli win, and that's what they got out of the game. I think Roma will be a little bit disappointed that they didn't show their best in this. They also have a problem in that, Manolas is a superb defender, and Fazio has actually been very, very good for them this season, but when he comes up against lightning pace, he really, really struggles. So in certain matchups, he's going to be exploited, so that's something they're going to have to address maybe in the summer.
Yeah, it was a good game. Good game to watch this. It was it was quite an early kickoff, wasn't it? Which kind of annoyed me a bit because I was just like, well, I haven't got time. So I raced back from town to watch the majority of the second half. That save was something special from Reina. I don't know if you saw the exchange with Wojciech Szczesny after the game.
Yeah.
Where he was blatantly just going, why did you do that? How did you do that? You git, kind of thing. So nice little exchange between the two. But big win for Napoli, that. And I don't know what it really does for the title race. Probably not very much, but we should just quickly touch on Juve because they did drop points, didn't they? Which is unlike them. They were behind Udinese and salvaged a draw. I think it was Bonucci, wasn't it, that got the equaliser?
Yeah.
So he's obviously back in Allegri's good books, but and he will be very much so after grabbing the equaliser because they didn't really perform, from what I can gather, on the day at the is it the Friuli? Is it the stadium? I think it is.
In Udine, It was, Juventus didn't perform to their the best of their ability, but Udinese was superb. And actually, they've done this a couple of times this season where they've had these very, very good performances. It's kind of gone a little bit unnoticed because they might dip a little bit at the end or concede like a strange goal or a sloppy goal from a corner or something that kind of blemishes it. But yeah, it was a very, very good performance from them, very disciplined. Zapata basically just ran the midfield and the Juventus defence to score the goal. It was actually really Bonucci's fault. He should have put in a better tackle. And the one downside for them is that Fofana, who's had such a good season, has scored a couple of really, really good goals for them. Picked up an injury and looks like he's probably going to be out for the rest of the season, which is a little bit disappointing. But I think it's also a testament to the fact that because where they are in the league, they haven't really got anything to play for. anymore. There's no danger of them being relegated. They're not realistically going to have any chance of getting a European spot, so they can kind of just sort of go for it in these big games where nothing is expected of them. And they put in a really, really good account of themselves. Juventus will be disappointed, but again, with the Roma-Napoli result, it kind of suits them. They did extend their lead by an extra point from what it was previously. Obviously, it would have been nicer for them if they'd won, but I don't think they're going to be too upset about a little blip. They'd rather have the blip in this game than, say, in the Champions League second leg or in a more important game when they've got Roma and Napoli away later in the season.
Yes, it was a bit of a surprise result, but as you say, Udinese definitely turned up on the day, so fair play to them. Let's talk Torino, mainly for one man, really. They were a goal down to Palermo, rather surprisingly, and then Mr. Belotti turned up for 8 minutes, basically.
Yeah, kid's unbelievable. It was a really good hit from Rispoli. Obviously been listening to us, hitting it from distance, but down and low to Joe Hart's left-hand side. I'm not actually going to blame him because it really wasn't his fault. It was a very, very good goal, but it was just notable. Again, it was that side of him. And I don't blame him for the goals. The majority of the goals that he has conceded this season because the defence in front of him is terrible. But the one thing Torino have got is Belotti up front, and just two-headed goals, very goal poacherist, I should say. It's not even a word. But the second goal in particular, lovely free kick floated in, and he just took it first time on the volley over the shoulder. Absolutely amazing hit, and it's just from a player who struggled so much in the sort of 2 years previous and was kind of written off, and the gamble looks like it's failed. I think it was like €5 million or something total they ended up having to pay for him, to now having a player who has a buyout clause of €100 million, and Sinisa Mihajlovic now saying that the club have made a mistake and they should have made it €150 million. He's now gone top goal scorer in Serie A as well with this hat-trick, as you say, in 8 minutes. He's just in unbelievable form, and there must be so many clubs that want to buy him. He's really got to have his pick at the moment because he does score every type of goal, and he seems to be full of running, full of energy. He's willing to listen and learn. He's always supportive of his teammates. He's trying to make goals as well, closing down from the front. He's just got everything you would want in a young striker, and I don't know how Torino are going to possibly be able to keep hold of him. The interesting thing will be whether he wants to stay in Italy or go abroad. That will be the sort of big decider.
Yeah, and I think the chairman said that it would be a bargain. The £100 million that he's now paid, that would be a bargain. It's like, wow, that says it all, doesn't it? But good day for him. And finally, a good day for Lazio, who won 2-0 away in Bologna. They're very quietly going about their business, aren't they? Ciro Immobile is a rather forgotten man when he was at Dortmund, wasn't he? And it didn't really work out for him. He's come back and he's scoring goals, but the whole Lazio machine seems to be almost back to the good old days, isn't it? They look sleek, they look stylish, there's a bit of flair about them, and they're getting results like this one on Sunday night.
Yeah, I mean, Bologna haven't been in the best of form, and Donadoni is under a bit of pressure there, but yeah, we haven't really talked that much about Lazio this season. They've got a chance of possibly catching for the Champions League places, which is unbelievable, really, when you consider some of the changes and sort of the limited budget they've got at the club. The fact they lost Candreva, who was one of their top goal scorers and had most assists, but keeping hold of Felipe Anderson was huge. Getting in Ciro Immobile was seen as a little bit of a gamble because although obviously the season he left Serie A as a top goal scorer, he went to Dortmund, didn't work out. Then he was loaned out in La Liga, and it didn't work out there either. He's come back and found his goal scoring form again. They've got one of the hottest sort of youth talents in Milinkovic-Savic as well, who's been fantastic. And they've got this nice blend now where they've got these slightly older midfielders behind them who are more experienced in Biglia and Parolo, who can help them and sort of coach them through the games. The defence looks much more solid now as well. De Vrij coming back from all those injury problems. Wesley Hoyt, who I have no idea if I'm saying that correctly or not. Very strange, these Dutch names. But, they just look a lot more solid in the centre. And then obviously not even forgetting the fact that they've got Keita, who doesn't start a lot of games, and he's a target for Barcelona apparently this summer. So the youth development and the sort of the talent that they spot and bring into the club is fantastic, and no one's really talking about them because everyone obviously concentrates on Juve and how well they're doing, the Roma-Napoli challenge, and then the sort of these young, exciting Italian players that are coming through at all the other clubs, the Milan clubs in particular, and they're just quietly going about their business and just going along, getting results solid. They had a fantastic result in the Coppa Italia midweek in the what is the home tie technically against Roma, a 2-0 win, where they really outperformed Roma. So they're on a really, really good run at the moment. They've got a chance of a Coppa Italia final, possibly making a Champions League. If not, I think they should be quite comfortably into the Europa League for next season, and a really good sort of platform to build from. So Inzaghi, who is kind of an unknown quantity in manager terms, is doing really well there.
Having a lovely old time, isn't he? And it is kind of, I know it's a cliche, but it is good to see a team like Lazio coming back to the forefront of things. Yeah. I think it's good to see that a club like that can get back on its feet and go again. If you are a fan of Milinkovic-Savic, or you want to know a bit more about him, spoiler alert, you might want to tune in next week. I shall say no more. Right, okay. Other results then, and you've got a bit of Milan news as well.
Yes. So other results, I'll just run through these quickly. Samp carried on their good form, getting a 3-1 win over Pescara. Milan got a 3-1 win over Chievo. Atalanta and Fiorentina played at a 0-0. Sousa's still in the job at the moment there. Empoli lost 2-0 at home to Genoa. Inter absolutely thrashed Calgary 5-1 away. You talk about Udinese already. Crotone and Sassuolo played at a 0-0. The Milan news is, well, basically, we said last week Berlusconi's going to be gone, and he's still there. It's fallen through again, some problems with raising the money. So the investment company, or sort of Chinese consortium that was supposed to be taking over a majority share, it has to now pay another 100 million euros to Milan for the delay. And there's talk that they might just say, you know what, this has gone on too long, we're just going to walk away and look for a different buyer, and basically be 200 million euros better off. And Berlusconi will probably still be in charge next season and have that money to spend on the club, and they'll be looking for someone else to come in. If that does happen, there's a possibility of a court case and all that kind of thing, so we have no idea what's going to go on there, but I'm sure this story is going to drag and drag. But, at least they're getting some money out of it, I guess.
Yes, a 3-1 victory for them as well, was it, over Chievo?
Dodgy penalty decisions again in that one.
Oh, gosh, yeah, one of them was ballooned by Carlos Bacca. Quick question for you. I know he's living out his dream, and I do understand. Was there a reason why Gianluca Lapadula was in tears after he scored the weekend? Because he scored and he was very, very emotional when he put that game. Is that just him, or was there a reason behind that? Do you know?
I'm not sure, actually. There might have been a reason behind it. I haven't seen any news about it, but there probably was. But he's always very excited whenever he plays for Milan, and coming from Serie B to play for such a huge club is like a massive honour for him. So he's the sort of play with a heart on his sleeve kind of player. But yeah, maybe I suspect there might be something else behind that. Should also mention, actually, I said about the Coppa Italia that the other result from midweek was Juventus beating Napoli 3-1. Again, some contentious refereeing decisions in that. Our friend Michael Folletti was saying, you're wrong. Those penalties are absolutely fine for Juve. A lot of people from the referees associations did come out and said they were all correct decisions. I do think, however, and I was only ribbing Michael a little bit, but I do think, however, Napoli probably should have had a penalty themselves. But yeah, that game finished 3-1, so the second leg of that should be interesting.
Yeah, definitely should be. That will be one to keep an eye on. We'll just run through the table a bit, and then you can give us a game to keep an eye on for next week. So Juve are indeed top, with Roma slipping up. It does look like a fairly likely scenario that Juve will retain, even with that draw. 67 from their 27 played. They are 7 clear of 59 points. Roma in second. Napoli 57 points, still chasing Roma in third, especially with that victory. Lazio up to fourth, 53 points. They're still in the hunt. And even Atalanta technically are in the hunt, 52 points. Can you include Inter on that on 6 on 51? Maybe just about. Milan just a point behind their rivals in 7th on 50, with Fiorentina, Torino and Samp making up the top 10. Chievo, Sas, Cagliari and Valencia, Udinese, I don't know where I got Valencia from, are 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th, with Genoa 15th, Bologna 16th, Empoli 17th, Palermo 18th, Crotone 19th, Pescara 20th. I think Pescara, Crotone and Palermo are still all going to be the goners, but my goodness me, there's a lot of red defeats in that bottom end.
There's a lot of teams that don't have anything to play for down the bottom.
Very true, yeah.
So, yeah.
No more so than Empoli, 4 straight defeats. They are sliding, minus 24 goal difference. Wow. They need Big Mac to get back on it. What about a game to have a look at next week? And Champions League, have we got Juve this week?
I think Juve are next week. Oh, God, I can't remember. They change the way they do it every year and move teams around.
Gets confusing, doesn't it?
Yeah. As a game for next week, as I've already put one through for Friday, I will say, this is a very big tie because this could be Champions League deciding possibly. Inter against Atalanta. They host Atalanta. That is 2:00 on the Sunday. That will be a very, very good game. Because apparently, according to one media outlet, Atalanta are just a satellite club for Juventus and only perform against the big teams to help Juventus out.
Yes, that's definitely a game to keep an eye on, though. I quite like the look of that one myself. So that is one to keep a smidge on. Where can people tweet you if they've got stuff they want to ask you about stuff on Italian football?
At jwelsh84.
There we go. Good stuff. Okay, that's Italy for another week then. We're going to move on now to France and see what's been going on in, of course, the hottest title race in Europe. I joke. Is this week's Ligue.
Right, we'll start this week. We'll get to the big boys in a minute, but first I want to start with Danny's Khan against very, very informed Angers. Really exciting game this. 2-3 to Angers. Where's this form suddenly come from Angers? 5 on the bounce, is that now?
4 on the 5 undefeated. They drew with Rennes at the start of this 4-game run, but they've been really informed. It's very strange. I can't help but think that the return of Sheikh Ndoye in their midfield has probably helped because he was injured at the start of the season. The form has definitely improved. I think they're a weird team on Jack, because you remember last season they were like the hipster team of the podcast. They were just on this lovely little run and everybody was delighted, and Moulin was being quoted as sort of coach of the year and everything, and then it all went a little bit sour towards the end and they fell away. They're a good side. They're young, they're enterprising. There's a young, I say a young player. They've got a lad called Toko Akambe, who actually scored the opener in this game. I suppose 24 is still young technically, but he's started to find the goals. It's 5 this season from 21 appearances, which obviously is not high, but he's started to find the net of late. You got 2 against Bastia and 1 this weekend, so they are starting to sort of work out how to get that in form of playing again. We said that the 4 straight victories, it started away at Lille, which we'll come on to in a minute, 1-0 victory over Nancy at home, a 3-0 victory over Bastia at home, and then of course this victory over Caen. So, okay, they're not all big boys, but they're getting results, and to win away from home twice in that run as well is a real bonus for them. So fair play to Angers, and they've pulled themselves clear, because there was a little bit of a danger they might get sucked into the relegation zone, but they seem to have got themselves clear. As for Caen, the same cannot be said, albeit 31 points should be okay for them if they can build on, if they can get a couple of victories. They went on this 2-game unbeaten run where they won at home to Nancy, and then they had that rather surprising victory away at St Etienne. But to lose this game 3-2, Santini and Rodelin are probably the 2 players they look to, and they both scored in this game. But they need to start picking up some points, because if you look at the teams below them, there isn't a lot of form below them, but if it only takes one or two of those teams to get on a little bit of a run of form, and they could see themselves dropping a little bit lower. They were one of the teams that I thought could be potentially in danger this season. Sadly, it's a team close to my heart that's in more danger. But I think Caen have got enough. My biggest concern with them is their goal difference. There's only two clubs in Ligue 1 with a worse goal difference than being Metz and, of course, Lorient. So minus 17 is a bit of a worry. They need to start scoring goals and not letting in as many. But very, very good victory for Angers. But yeah, Caen need to sort of right the ship again after this defeat, because it's knocked them a bit sideways.
Yeah, always surprised me that Jake and Doy never went to a bigger club. Always seemed a decent player capable of playing at a slightly higher level. I
think it's his age. I think that's the only thing that's put people off, because he's 30 now. I know Pep Guardiola was a big fan, and I think he had a look at him at Man City when he first went there because of the talk of Yaya Toure disappearing. But that's the only thing. If Ndoye was doing this for 5 years earlier, I think he probably would be being talked about as like the Bakayokos at Monaco. But at 30, I think it's a bit of a risk. Sadly, he will probably end up in someone like Sunderland's midfield next season. So I hope he doesn't, because he's better than that.
Don't do it to yourself.
He's very, very influential for Angers, club captain as well. So he's a good little player.
All right, we'll move on to Toulouse Lille. I'm slightly confused because we've spoken a few times this season about Project Lille and this kind of thing that's all going to be happening for the future and all this kind of stuff. I'm assuming being in Ligue 2 is not part of those plans, because they're possibly in danger of doing that at the moment, aren't they?
They really are. I do wonder if I know we've joked about Bielsa almost turning the plane round on his way to sign a contract at the Stade Pierre Mauroy. I do wonder if that's in his mind, because just at the moment they are on a shocking run. They did get the victory over Caen, but other than that, it's lots of red. They lost at home to Lorient, which frankly is abysmal given what Lorient are doing at the moment, and they then went away and lost to PSG, which is not a big surprise. Lost at home to Angers. Then they got that victory over Caen. You thought, okay, things are back. Then they lost that crazy game to Bordeaux where they were leading it and comfortable, and lost 2 goals in a minute last weekend. And then this weekend, a draw with Toulouse. Now, a draw with Toulouse away from home, in principle, is not a bad result. In fairness, you'd look at it and go, that's not a bad scoreline. But Christophe Julien put Toulouse in front, and to be honest, Toulouse really should have been out of sight. But Yassine Benzia rescued a point for Lille, and they did need it, because if you look overall at what Lille have done, they've brought in all these players in the January transfer window. I think it was 7 players in one go. Now, as much as that's entertaining for the fans, and it's like, lots of players and everyone gets excited about new players, it's not exactly a stable environment, I don't think. And I don't think you can expect too much of players to come straight in like that and change the club around. So I don't really know how Patrick Collot is feeling. Frank Pussy, is feeling. Collot, of course, departing. He's come in to do the job. He's the former Marseille coach, of course. I don't know how he's really feeling, because he's on a bit of a hiding to nothing. He's obviously going to go when Bielsa comes in. It just all strikes me as a bit of a mess at Lille at the moment. Next 4 fixtures, away at Nancy, that won't be easy. Home to Marseille, who got a good result this weekend. Away at Bastia. And then home to Nice. I mean, 3 defeats out of 4 there, and they're in real trouble. So I would be looking over my shoulder a little bit if I was a Lille fan. And what are they, 3 points clear of the relegation playoff place at the moment? There's a lot of clubs down there that are fighting for their right to stay in Liga. And Lille have got this sort of, we're too good to go down tag. We'll ask West Ham how that feels. It doesn't always work out the way you want it. Yeah. So, Toulouse, as for them, I mean, they're comfortable, I think, now. They're up in 9th. 4 draws out of 5, but I think they'll be fine this season. And that partnership between Julien and Issa Diop, there isn't many better young partnerships in Europe right now. They're defensively very, very good. So I think they'll be fine. But Lille, there's definite warning signs there.
Yeah, not good times there. Now we'll just dip in on the big boys. We're going to concentrate on Monaco this week because, frankly, they're more entertaining. But PSG got a 1-0 win not exactly thrilling against Nancy. Your
Dodgy
mate,
pen as well.
your mate Cavani. Yeah, it was a little bit. Was it Aurier, wasn't it? Who
yes,
went down rather theatrically.
Who likes a fall? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but a good penalty from Cavani, and they got a bit of rotation in the squad, didn't they? Before with Champions League coming up, so they got the result they needed anyway to sort of keep in touch with Monaco and put some pressure back on them. Nice. Got a 1-0 win. Willy Cyprien, Balotelli back in the team. Wasn't dropped. Back from suspension.
Running.
Yeah.
He ran lots.
Yeah.
It's very weird.
I saw the assistant coach there giving him a lot of praise as he came off and sort of, giving him a well done as if he was a little 10-year-old or something. Yeah.
Yeah, indeed.
Maybe he needs that. I don't know. But so 2 results there for them. Monaco was the last to play of the 3. Had a game that probably most people expected them to win at home against Nantes, but perhaps not this comfortably. I know Monaco scored a lot of goals this season, but I thought Nantes would throw up a little bit more resistance than this. But in the end, 4-0 win, and Mbappe yet again grabbing the headlines.
Yeah, it's weird actually because I was caught up on the Mbappe train myself, and I love him, as you know. He's a wonderful, wonderful footballer, and for me, probably the most sought after talent in Europe right now. But Bernardo Silva, I mean, wow, this guy is just something else. It's the guy who was let go by Benfica. He's such a good playmaker. And there's so many clubs that are looking for sort of playmaking midfielders at the moment, and he will go in the summer for very, very big money. I've got no doubt about that whatsoever. And he was just sublime in this game, and so were Monaco, and they are a joy to watch. And the thing with Monaco is that they're so impressive. Yes, they do have defensive deficiencies, 100%. You can't deny that. But they press with an agenda. They win the ball back, and it's constantly going forward. It's a constant press to win the ball and then do something with it. It's not just like, oh well, let's win it back and pass it sideways for 20 minutes. They win the ball and then they actively go at teams. And although it is a largely counter-attacking style, this game highlighted it perfectly when yes, they did sit deep at times and let Nantes have the ball, but the minute Nantes lost it, they were at them. It is like the red and white arrows. So they're very, very entertaining to watch. They swept Nantes aside in this game. Very, very comfortable, as you say. Mbappe with 2 goals, Valère Germain with 1. 2 goals right before half-time, killed it as a contest. Fabinho keeping up his 100% penalty record as well, as Falcao looked on in a very hipster pair of specs from the sidelines. He was being rested ahead of the Man City game. I think talk of a little bit of an injury. I think he was just rested, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, obviously the highlights will go to Mbappe. He was substituted on 2 goals by Leonardo Jardim, gave him a bit of a hug, and he very maturely sort of nodded as if to say, yeah, I understand, I'm disappointed, but I get it. He's a very, very mature young lad. He's the youngest player at 18 years, 2 months to be exact, to score 10 Ligue goals in the last 30 seasons, 30 seasons. That's quite a record. So yeah, he's another one that the annoying thing is, as an Arsenal fan, of course, his price tag is going up week by week by week. And I wouldn't be surprised to see him go for sort of 40 or 50 million quid in the summer. And people talk about how good Martial was when he joined Manchester United at that same age. This kid is way ahead of where Martial was when he went for the money he went for. So I dread to think how much he's going to be sold for or to whom. But yeah, Monaco just so impressive. And I would really, really like to see them potentially get a couple of goals against Man City and then go back to the old school Jardim. And the good thing about this game is not had chances, has to be said, but they kept a clean sheet, and that's what they need to be building on ahead of Man City, because if they concede to Man City, I actually think they're going to have to score 4 times at home if they concede at all. So, whereas if they can get 1 up, 20 minutes to go, get 2, I would back them to shut Man City out. But I'm really looking forward to that second leg, and I still really hope Monaco win the league, because they're just so entertaining, and I've not seen a more entertaining club in Europe this season. Yeah,
that Champions League tie is going to be brilliant. As you say, the defence is so important, but I still think Man City will get a goal. So I kind of hope they do, so that Monaco have to go absolutely hell for leather, and we can get like another sort of 6-2 or something ridiculous. You
never know.
Yeah. Good news for Nantes fans though. Sergio Conceição was linked and apparently officially approached for the Leicester job, but he came out. He started a Twitter account which he didn't have before. So he set up a Twitter account to explain that he is not leaving. He is very happy there, and that's his home. So some good news for Notts fans, because I think they're enjoying, despite this result, what he's done there so far. We'll just go through the other results then. Friday night, Bordeaux got a 1-1 draw with Lyon. Lyon stumbling again a little bit. Montpellier got a 1-1 with Guingamp. Steve Mooney with another goal. They're going to miss him next season when he goes to the Premier League, no doubt.
Lovely goal as well, that little backflip thing. Yeah.
Bastia played out a 0-0 with Saint-Etienne. Saint-Etienne reverting to form, of course. Metz with a 1-1 draw with Rennes. Lorient lost 4-1 to Marseille.
Could have been 10.
Yeah, I must say there was two very good goals. One from Thauvin, although the defending was a little bit suspect, but the pick of the bunch was definitely Dimitri Payet's from the corner. The ridiculous bring it down with 1 foot and then back to goal lob. Yeah, just obscene. Sorry, Chris, for bringing it up, but
it has to be done.
It's well worth looking up. But we'll go to the table now. Monaco, top of the table, 65 points, 3 points clear of PSG and Nice, who are both on 62 points. Then there's a nice big old gap to Lyon in fourth on 47 points, Bordeaux in fifth on 43, Marseille 42, Saint-Etienne 40, Rennes 37, Toulouse 36, Angers also 36. Guingamp, Nantes, Montpellier and Caen make out the bottom, go down to 14th. And then you've got Metz, Lille, Nancy just outside the relegation zone, with Dijon, Bastia and Lorient in the bottom 3. Lorient cut drift a little bit more, but it's fair to say there's probably all the way up to Caen, possibly still can be falling into it because they're only 4 points clear. So still tight at the bottom, and from basically from 5th down to almost 10th, 11th, there's still competing for the Europa League spots as well. So still a very exciting league to watch, and obviously at the top as well. Have you got a game for us to watch next week?
I do, and I have a bit of news. I actually picked Lorient to watch this weekend, so hopefully if people did watch, at least I got some goals, I suppose. But there's Lorient's next game, PSG. Nice easy game, lovely. No, I'm going to gonna plump for Lyon Toulouse, which is a 4:00 game next Sunday. Lyon obviously pretty good at home, but we all know what Toulouse can do when they go away to one of the big sides, don't we, PSG? So I kind of fancy that to be quite an entertaining watch. If you fancy a full hipster choice, Nancy Lille is a massive game for both sides on Saturday night. So, but yeah, they're the two to pick out. Bordeaux are playing at 3:45 on Saturday, so I can't really pick them because nobody will remember. So those are the games to watch. I can barely contain my excitement at the idea of watching Lorient in Ligue 2 next season. The Domino's Pizza sponsored Ligue 2, so that'll be fun. Just a quick bit of news: Raymond Copper. Who some people might know the name, some people may not. I'm not going to go into a huge amount of detail because, frankly, it's before my time. But he was a very famous French footballer, one of the first French footballers to play abroad. He was a Ram legend, to play for Ram between 51 and 56, scoring 48 goals in 158 games before moving to Real Madrid, where he scored 24 and 79, and then returned to Ram as an absolute icon of French football. He played for France.
Ballon d'Or winner as well, wasn't he? And
indeed he was, yes, you're absolutely right.
That people comparing him to Messi, and he said it's very lucky that Messi's being compared to me.
Yes, indeed, yeah, you got to love that. He was awarded the Ballon d'Or in 1970. He was the first footballer to receive the Légion d'honneur award as well, which Pele apparently named him one of the 125 greatest living footballers, which is also quite the honour. I know it doesn't sound like a good thing, 125, but when you think of the millions of players that go through life, it is quite an honour.
The best quote I saw was the famous one from Santiago Bernabeu himself when he went and bought him, and he said Real Madrid have just signed the best player in the world. So that basically says everything you need to know. No
greater honour. If you're interested in the history of Raymond Copper, I can't give more praise than this article. To a friend of the show, Jeremy Smith, wrote a brilliant piece on French Football Weekly. If you just go to FrenchFootballWeekly.com, you'll find a link to it. It's called The First Modern Footballer. It's a brilliant piece. It's not very long. It's one of those you can chew over in your lunch break. Couple of videos on there as well, and a brilliant picture which features Zidane. Go and have a look at it. It's a very, very good picture. So if you want to have a read up of that, please do. And a little bit of cross promotion. I will be appearing on the Get French Football News podcast this week with other friend of the show and Nathan Staples, where we'll be talking about the relegation fight in Ligue. So if you want to hear me cry about Lorient, then maybe give that a listen as well. So I'll be on that show, which I would imagine will be out the time you're hearing this. So there you go.
Wonderful stuff. That's everything from Ligue this week.
Super. Okay, one league to go then. And in the absence of Drew, who is clearly poorly, we're going to fudge our way through this week's Bundesliga. Right, John. Let's start with the kind of the breaking news that broke over the weekend and then subsequently broke again today. That is, of course, Bayer Leverkusen and Roger Schmidt parting ways. It was sort of amicable, sort of not. It's all a little bit up in the air as to who pushed who. But the new interim coach is Tayfun Korkut, who's people might remember with the Hanover coach. Also was managing Kaiserslautern in the Bundesliga as well. So he's been employed along with coach Javier Zembrod until the end of the season. So it looks like a bit of an interim appointment. This was always going to happen, really, wasn't it? We sort of said about it after the Atletico Madrid game in the Champions League.
Yeah.
There was rumours. Losing 6-2 at Dortmund probably didn't help his case. So he's a goner. So what do you make of all that going on there?
Yeah, I don't think it was a huge surprise. I think regardless of the result, it was always going to happen, whether it was this game or the next. To be honest, I think the Atletico result was kind of the final straw. And the weird thing was that after the Dortmund game, before it was announced, the result obviously finished 6-2. We'll go into the game in a little bit in a minute, but he said he was happy that the performance had improved from the previous one, which is a very strange thing to say. It's all a bit odd because I quite like Roger Schmidt, and I think he'd been doing a decent job for a while. He certainly started very well, but it kind of fell apart at Leverkusen. They had some very good highs and then really, really dipped lows. I know obviously they lost Çalhanoğlu, which was a big loss for them, but with the quality of players and the squad he's got there, it's kind of how it's not to the same disappointment as what's happened with Valencia in Spain, but it's similar in a sense that they're two teams that have got a lot of quality players in and they're not performing to the level they are. So it gets to the point where something has to change there, and in this case it has to be the manager. In the actual game itself, they went 2 goals down to Dortmund early doors, sort of 20, 25, 26 minutes, Dembele and Aubameyang, and they got themselves back in it through Kevin Volland, and then Aubameyang scored again, and Vendel scored a really, really good free kick, which is well worth checking out, to make it 3-2. So it looked like, maybe they're going to fight back in a bit of a rally, but then they just collapsed again. And consistent performances like this, just you have to let the manager go. I think it's 11 defeats, is it now, they've had this season, which is, for a club of Bayer's side, just not good enough. And it's going to be difficult for them, but they really need that European football. It's kind of what's expected. The bare minimum kind of is Europa League for that club and the size of it. So it's just not good enough. I think Roger Schmidt might have to, perhaps in terms of his career, maybe go to a smaller or sort of lesser club, if you like, and build up his reputation again. But something clearly went wrong there halfway through his tenure, because it started very, very well and he had some really good results that kind of surprised people. And people were talking about him for a short while, at least anyway, of possibly one day being a candidate as a Bayern Munich manager. So something's definitely gone wrong, but great performance from Dortmund, and they looked a lot better defensively in this game as well, which will certainly help them. Obviously, Champions League, the Benfica game, in which they should have won because they were so dominant in that and ended up losing 1-0. So good news for them. Sad news about Mario Götze as well, who lots of fans have been talking about and wondering why he hadn't been playing, and when he had, his performances hadn't been particularly good, and it appears he has some sort of metabolism problem, They've looked into this very deeply, and that's why he's been struggling with energy and containing his weight, and he's been doing all the correct things and correct trainings and nutrition and everything. So it's basically, it looks like he's not going to play at all this season, and they're going to try and work out what they can do and what they can give him in terms of perhaps hormonal replacements and that kind of thing, because obviously you've got to be within the regulations and anti-doping regulations as well. So hopefully he comes back from that, because he hasn't really been the player that everyone thought he was. You know, there was times when people were referring to him as the German Messi, and he was going to be a big superstar, and it really hasn't happened since the World Cup.
No, you're absolutely right. It is a shame. I don't have a metabolism problem. I'm just greedy. It is a serious illness, and I think there was talk that it was career-threatening if they don't get it sorted out. So, and for a player they spent, 17-odd million on? I think it was. I mean, he was the marquee signing for Dortmund last summer. So, it is sad news. We wish him a speedy recovery. Be interesting to see what happens with Werder Bremen at the end of the season. I wonder if that might be a job that Roger Schmidt might have a look at if it becomes available.
Maybe something like that. A bit of a project or something, a bit lower down, less of a profile. It'd be interesting to see who Bayer Leverkusen end up getting in the summer. I saw apparently some of the Bayer fans were asking for Ranieri to come in as manager, which would be, I don't know, be very strange. I mean, I'm sure Claudio would love the job, but yeah.
I kind of like the idea of Claudio getting a job of that size, just to sort of, because it'd be a nice end to his horrible end at Leicester. But that is one to definitely keep an eye on. And speaking of keeping an eye on, we had some eyes on the ground this week. Our good friend who listens to the pod, Matthew Grokut, who's at Grokut, he tweeted me the other night, and he said, please can you mention the Hamburg match with Hertha BSC. And I was like, I thought to myself, why on earth would you want to? Because I watched this game and it was hideous. I mean, it was just such a bad game. And he said, please could you cover it in your Euro podcast? And I was like, why is that? Because he was there. That's why. So a big shout out to you, Matthew. He says, thank you. It's the first time at a Bundesliga game the atmosphere was bouncing. So, yes, hope you got back, Matthew. You have to let us know whereabouts in the UK you are, but hope you enjoyed it. It wasn't the greatest spectacle.
I bet the atmosphere was bouncing because of the result, though, because that's huge for Hamburg, isn't it? Absolutely.
And a good goal, actually, from Alvin Ekdal, who's, wasn't he? He was in Italy, wasn't he, briefly? Swedish player. Was it Palermo, I want to say? Maybe wrong. But I'll have to look that up. But yeah, he got the winning goal with the 77th minute. Hertha Cagliari, of course. Sorry, wasn't Cagliari and Bologna who played for. Briefly at Juve as well, very briefly. But it was a very, very good goal in an otherwise pretty poor match. Hertha turned up looking like a side who'd had a few defeats on the road and were looking to just try and keep it tight. But it kind of backfired. Plattenhardt was robbed on the edge of the box, and a ball came through and fell to the feet of Ekdal after good work from Bobby Wood, actually, on the touchline. Very, very good finish. But as you say, it's a huge result for Hamburg, because given the other results of the weekend, they had to win, and win they did. So gives them a little bit of breathing space between them and Ingolstadt. Was it 5 points clear now? But they are still in that relegation playoff spot and probably will remain there for the end of the season. But yeah, it's a very, very big result for that. Hertha struggling a little bit. Does strike me a bit of the end of the last season where they fell away, but we'll see how they progress. We should just touch briefly. Bayern Munich 3-0 victory away at Cologne. Javi Martinez, Juan Bernat, and Frank Ribery. Decent points for Bayern. I mean, obviously Cologne have been a great form this season, but 3 defeats out of their last 4, so maybe they're falling away. But good warm up for Bayern Munich as they take a trip to London.
Yeah, terrifying prospect for them, just being the 5-1 up. I think that it's kind of calmed down a little bit now. It's confusing to anyone who's not a Bayern Munich fan or follows the Bundesliga a lot to say that there was disappointment with Ancelotti when you're top of the league and you're cruising in the Champions League and everything else, but there really was with the performances and stuff, and they've definitely gone up a level from what they were in the first half of the season. And to be honest, if this is all part of Ancelotti's plan, then he's timed it perfectly, because this will see them through to the end of the season to win another Bundesliga title. And if they can keep this form and the pace that they're playing at now, which is a lot higher tempo, it will stand them in good stead in the Champions League and gives them a real chance of winning it. Because if you watch Bayern in the first half of the season, despite them winning, they weren't entertaining. It was very sluggish, it was very slow, and you thought that they were probably going to struggle a little bit in Europe. So yeah, another good result for them, and just a sort of comfortable get them through, and then midweek finish off Arsenal. Not sure how much effort that's really going to take, but yeah, decent result for them, and Carlo just having a nice lovely time with his what was that, his 1001st game of his managerial career now.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, quite the career for Carlo, and as you say, good result for Bayern. Werder Bremen, I watched against Darmstadt, 2-0 victors in that game. Good result that for Bremen too. Max Kruse goals in that one. Augsburg drew with Leipzig on the Friday night game, 2-2. Timo Werner with another goal there, but Hinteregger from centre back scoring an absolute cracker for Augsburg.
Yes,
in
he
that game.
did. Yeah, very late. Disappointing goal, disappointing result for Leipzig, because they kind of dropped off a little bit. They were still a glimmer of a sort of chance of the title push. I mean, I'm sure they'll still be very happy with their season, because it's obviously ridiculous what they've done, but there was the slimmest chance left, and I think just dropping those extra 2 points there, I think that really does sew it up a little bit for Bayern Munich now.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, and Wolfsburg dropping points as well away at Mainz. Cordoba getting the goal after Mario Gomez had put Wolfsburg in front, so that ended in a 1-1 draw. Hoffenheim went goal crazy against Ingolstadt. Goal for Sebastian Rudy, who's off to Bayern, of course, in the summer. 2 for I can never pronounce this guy's name. Shalai. There we go. Got there in the end. 2 goals for him. Hubner and Kramaric with the others. Sula with an own goal. He's also Bayern Munich bound, of course, in the summer. So good result that for Hoffenheim. I'll talk about Freiburg in a second, but a quick Gladbach watch. 4-2 victory over Schalke in the rain. Goals galore. 2 goals for Fabian Johnson.
Yep.
Very much on the turn, aren't they? Gladbach, they're on the rise.
Yeah, getting decent results. I think it's fair to say, though, that this is a Schalke team that are perhaps underperforming a little bit, so I wouldn't read too much into the result as a Gladbach fan. But yeah, I'm just pleased that he's come in Hecking and just sort of stabilised the team, getting the results, turning them around. And after the Europa League performance, it was quite amazing, and we've actually got Schalke in the Europa League as well, so a little prelude to that perhaps. So yeah, it's all looking good at the moment. Just sort of consolidate a top 10 finish if that's possible, and see how far we can get in the Europa League this season.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Of course, it is a prelude to that game. And I watched Freiburg win away at Eintracht Frankfurt, who surprisingly left Alex Meyer on the bench. A little bit of a surprise, that one. But an excellent result. Freiburg are really surprising a lot of people this season. I was hoping they'd stay up. I think they're going to be comfortable now. They're up to 8th. Really good result this. 2 goals for Fabian Niederlechner, which is the greatest name ever. He's really impressed me this season. A couple of goals in this one for him. He very much was the star of the show on the day. And one back for Hagota. Actually went in front Frankfurt in the 11th minute, but Freiburg turned it round to get the points. So very, very good performance for them. And as for the Eagles, they are falling. 4 straight defeats. Not good. They're down to 6th now. I still think they're overperforming. Under I forgot the coach's name, who's completely escaped me, Croatian fella. But I'll have to look it up now. Niko Kovac, of course, is what his name there. But yeah, very, very good performance of Freiburg. Not sure about that away kit. Green and red, not sure it really goes, but we'll let them off. But yeah, very, very good result for Freiburg. So long live those two. So the clash of my 2 hipster German sides, because we all know that Paderborn are dead now. So yes, okay. Let's have a look at the table, then I'm going to give you the honour of picking out a game for us to watch next week. So Bayern Munich, as we said and have said for a number of weeks, atop. They're 7 points clear now of Leipzig, 56. Leipzig 49 in second. Borussia Dortmund are a further 6 points back in third on 43. Hoffenheim 41 in fourth. Hertha and Eintracht make up the top 6, with Cologne, Freiburg, Gladbach and Leverkusen down to 10th. Mainz 11th, Augsburg 12th, Schalke really underperforming, 27 points in 13th. Equally, Werder Bremen 14th on 25 points, and then their clutch of clubs that are fighting it out down the bottom end. Wolfsburg, in 15th, 23 points, as are Hamburg in 16th, same points with Ingolstadt, 18 points. Just a sniff, they could still go on a run. I don't think it's likely, but you never know. And I think Darmstadt probably are doomed. 12 points from their 23, 6 points adrift of Ingolstadt, and 11 points adrift of safety or even that relegation spot, playoff spot. So I think they are probably doomed for the Bundesliga's return next season. So that's slightly unfortunate for them. Which game are you going to pick out for us to watch next week then?
Well, I'm going to give the listeners an option. If you prefer your schnitzel to your paella, then Friday night, instead of watching La Liga, you could watch the Bundesliga, because Bayer Leverkusen host Werder Bremen. I'll just be interested to see how Leverkusen sort of bounce back if they have the manager's gone, new coach. Well, not that it's a new coach, but someone coming in, and Bremen on a really good run of form. And these are two teams that could be passing each other in the table on current form anyway. And Bremen trying to pull themselves away from the relegation zone. So that would be my one to look out for.
Yes, and indeed that is certainly the game that I was having a little sniff at as well. I do like a Friday night fixture. Don't know what it is, start of a weekend, but yes. And as usual, if you want to ask Drew about stuff, because I like to think we know enough about German football, but there's a few things that I'm sure Drew can be far more articulate than us. So when Drew is back, you can catch him at AFC BVB 1410 on Twitter. So hit him up. I'm sure he'll be delighted. He does like a conversation about his German stuff, does our Drew, so drop him a line and engage with him, and I'm sure he will have a natter to you. Right, that will do us for the Bundesliga and indeed our trip around Europe this week. So we're going to go stateside now and catch up with week 1 in MLS, and it's this week's best of the rest. Okay, so we're going to put the focus on MLS this week because obviously we've been promoting Jimmy and Pat's podcast that we did on the MLS preview, and Jimmy wrote an excellent blog. There's still an unfinished article that Pat's writing up for us about the sort of the potential star names of the season come the end of the season, or who we'll be looking at as the stars. So keep an eye out for that. Have a look on our website, and if you haven't already, catch up on the podcast. It's a long one, but a good one. So have a look at that. So let's just pick out some of the results. Well, let's look at the two new franchise clubs that have joined MLS this season. Minnesota didn't get off to the best of starts. Portland Timbers, though, came out roaring. 5-1 victors in the opening game of the MLS 2017-18 season. Alum Valeri with 2 and Fernando Adi with 2 stoppage time goals. A 5-1 victory, a goal back for Ramirez for Minnesota, but they were very much put to the sword. Timber Joey was a busy chap. Columbus Crew, they could only manage a 1-1 draw with my Chicago Fire. Signs of life for the Fire. Very good point, actually. Cam getting the equaliser after Edson Finley had put Columbus Crew in front. So good result that for the Fire. Dallas, who are many people's favourites for MLS this season for the title. Arruti and Acosta with the winners as they beat LA Galaxy. I think it's the first time they won in Carson. I think it's something like 8 years, something like that. It's the first time they've won at LA Galaxy for a long time. So very good result for them. Real Salt Lake drew with Toronto 0-0, not a lot to be said there. And Colorado Rapids won 1-0 over New England to go for Badji with the winner there. On the Sunday fixtures, DC United, that's Jimmy's DC United, 0-0 with Sporting KC. I think there might have been a penalty missing in that game. I could be wrong. Might have to look that up while I frantically look down the other results. But not the best of starts for DC United. Indeed, Marcelo Salvas missed a 17th minute penalty in that game. I thought I saw that. So 0-0 there. Houston Dynamo surprised the current MLS champions, Seattle Sounders. They won 2-1. Torres and Kyoto with the goals there. Clint Dempsey, good to see him back in football. Whether you like him or not, I know a lot of people don't, but good to see him back after the heart issues he had last season. 2-1 victory over the Dynamo. Good start to their season, as indeed it was for the San Jose Earthquakes and that lovely little kit they've got, the blue and black number. 1-0 victory over Montreal Impact. Kamara was sent off. Godoy got the winner for San Jose. Orlando, I don't know if you saw their new stadium, John. They've got a lovely new stadium in Florida.
Is that the game that had the greatest chant in football that I've ever heard in my life?
Is this the one I tweeted about?
Move, bitch, get off the pitch.
Yes, get off the pitch, bitch, get off the
Brilliant.
pitch. Yes, indeed. Shadow was injured, and that was the Orlando's. They were also singing about the NYCFC "You Ain't Got No History," which is another cracker. So yeah, they've got a standing singing section at the new Orlando stadium that's been purpose built for soccer. So it's really, really good to see a club like that sort of get off. It's called the Orlando City Stadium, which is rather obviously named, but yeah, the singing section really did. Really gave some fantastic atmosphere, and I think people that don't really follow MLS were watching this game and going, actually, this is pretty good stuff, and very good victory that for Orlando. Kyle Larin, who is very much their provider of goals, he got the winner. Kaká, unfortunately, going off very early with a hamstring injury in that one, so he'll be out for a few weeks. And David Villa didn't have the best of nights either. Missed two very good clear-cut chances for NYCFC. So work to be done for Patrick Vieira, methinks. And then in the final games, Sunday night / Monday morning, Vancouver Whitecaps drew with Philadelphia Union 0-0. Not much to be said on that one. And Atlanta United, well, they the other franchise clubs, coming in. They've got a lovely tight stadium. They've got a new stadium that's being purpose built. I think it's due for opening in July, which is a 70,000 seater stadium. Amazing. But the Bobby Dodd Stadium, which I think is the Georgia Tech Stadium at the moment, hosted their first ever game. The first ever goal in MLS will go the honour of that goal will go to a man with an absolute bag of pace, the Argentine player Yamil Assad, Rodrigo Assad, whichever you prefer. He put Atlanta in front. And it was all systems go at that stage, but unfortunately for the home side, New York Red Bulls came roaring back. Royer with the equaliser in 76, and an own goal, unfortunately, from Walks. I think Bradley Wright Phillips tried his best to claim it, but it was indeed an own goal, and that got the result for the Red Bulls. Kimona was sent off late. There's quite a few tasty challenges in this game. I shouldn't really have been watching it because I'd worked today, but I was up until 3 a.m. watching this, and it was a really good watch. So, yeah, New York Red Bulls start their season with a win. Obviously, there's no point giving you the tables because there's only one game gone, but it's been a decent opening weekend of MLS, and the crowds were up. Whether they can sustain it for the whole season, open to debate. But I think soccer is definitely growing in the US season on season. Fans turned out in their numbers, and it's a really good thing to see. As far as next week, you've got obviously a full fixture list once again. I suppose the standout ties from the next weekend, Montreal host Seattle, that'll be a decent game. New York City FC face DC United, that's Jimmy's lot there. Minnesota face Atlanta, so you've got the two franchise clubs meeting, that's in the Sunday game next week. And you've got my Chicago Fire hosting Real Salt Lake on Saturday evening, so I'm hoping for a win there. So there you go. John, you haven't got an MLS side, so we need to give you an MLS side, really, don't we, to follow?
I sort of kind of for half a game followed the Whitecaps because my
mutual friend.
Yeah, because I'm a mutual friend, but my mum was born in Canada, so I asked our mutual friend what was the nearest team to where she was born, and he quickly informed me it was a team he didn't like very much. So he said, technically, if you cheat a little bit with the maths, by which I think he meant about 2,000 miles, Whitecaps would be the closest team. So I kind of followed them for a little bit, but because of where they are and the times their games are on, it was just ridiculous attempting to be able to watch them because it's like 4 a.m. Well, I say that, but there's fans of obviously all different clubs that get up all around the world to watch them. So maybe I'm just not dedicated enough.
Maybe. I mean, you can always catch the highlights, I suppose.
Yeah.
They're away at San Jose Earthquakes at 3 a.m. next Sunday morning, so UK time. So if you're really that desperate, that's the time to watch them. If not, maybe catch the highlights. But fair enough. Well, you can follow the Whitecaps, and yes, I'm quietly optimistic about Chicago Fire's season. So I've said that a few times, and it's ended in peril. We all know my record about following teams that are not the biggies. So I don't expect it to work out well, but you never know. As usual, if you do want to follow people that have far more knowledge than I'm a closet MLS fan. I do like to follow it, but I haven't got the knowledge of Jimmy or indeed Pat. So at NN_Guna is where you can find Jimmy, and Pat, who is very, very good debutant, who I must admit I hadn't even met until I met Jimmy. He's at Pat Ormsby, ORMSB. BY_XC. He's a Seattle Sounders fan. So if you want to know anything about Seattle or you want to talk about MLS, Jimmy and Pat are your men. So tune in to those. We will, of course, be bringing you MLS updates throughout the season because we do have quite a few fans in America. So hello to all of you, ladies and gents. And we'll probably do another MLS special around about sort of summertime as well. So look out for that. Right, that's the best of the rest done. Just very, very briefly, before we leave the best of the rest, did you see what happened to Feyenoord this week?
Was it another goal line controversy?
That was another goal line controversy, yes.
Except this time technology wasn't needed, if I read it correctly.
What wasn't available, more importantly. This is one of the grounds, I don't know how it works, but they don't have it. It was a derby against Sparta Rotterdam. They lost 1-0. They were lucky, really, because Ajax dropped points as well, surprisingly, so they do keep their lead at the top of the Eredivisie. But yeah, they lost 1-0 to a Matthias Pogba goal. Rotterdam won the derby, but there was an incident where it looked like a header had gone over the line. In fact, it clearly had gone over the line. The defender sort of falling back was trying to clear it. It was clearly over the line. Referee didn't give it. And it's just bizarre that you could have two incidents like that back to back in the space of a week. So bizarre. So there you go. There's the proof that goal line technology is needed, full stop or not at all, because you can't have it in one game and not the other. So Feyenoord will feel a little bit hard done by. But as I say, luckily Ajax dropped points as well. PSV did win 4-0 over Roda. To close the gap slightly on Ajax, but 55 points to Feyenoord 63. I don't think they're in that title race anymore. So, yeah, just had to quickly touch on that one before we moved on. So there we go. Right, that draws a line under our little whip around the leagues for another week then. So let's go, and we're actually going to go back to Holland for this week's player profile, and it's our usual Hipsters choice. Okay, so this week's Hipsters Choice, as I say, we're going back to the Eredivisie. We're going back to Holland or the Netherlands, whichever you prefer. And this week's Hipsters Choice is indeed a Feyenoord player, and it is Rick Karsdorp. So what do we know about Rick Karsdorp? Well, he is indeed a Feyenoord player. He wears the number 2. He also is a Dutch international, wearing the number 12, or that's his shirt of choice when he plays. He was born on February the 11th, 1995, making him 22 years of age. He's 6 foot dead and 176 pounds. He's a right-footed defender, playing at right back or indeed centre back, preferably right back, should say. He is a Nike Mercurial Superfly wearer, and you can find him on Instagram, I'm reliably informed. Karsdorp 2 is where you can stalk him. So what do we know? Well, Rick Karsdorp 22 is indeed a Dutch right back currently playing for Feyenoord in the Eredivisie. He was born in Schluhoven. I hope that's how you pronounce that. It's a great name. Close to Rotterdam. And he joined Feyenoord at the academy age of 9. He broke into the first team ahead of the 2014-15 season in the Champions League qualifier against Besiktas, replacing the now Southampton player Jordi Clasie in the 69th minute. Feyenoord would lose this game 3-1, unfortunately. He spent most of his youth career as a goal-scoring attacking midfielder, and when he signed his first professional contract aged 19, it was with the intent that he would fight for the number 10 position. However, during the 14-15 season, the then first-team manager Fred Rutten was short of a right back, and he tried Karsdorp out of position. By the end of that 14-15 season, Karsdorp had established himself as Feyenoord's first-choice right back. And in 15-16, he notched up 10 assists, the most of any defender in the Eredivisie that season. I would imagine quite ahead of a few people in Europe, actually, as well. As Karsdorp was solidifying his importance in the Feyenoord first team, his international career was also progressing, having played at all levels of the Dutch national team, from under 17 through to under 21 level, and he was called up to the senior squad in November 2015 for the Euro 2016 qualifiers, and in March 2016 for friendlies, but he didn't make his senior debut until October 2016, where he played the full 90 minutes in a 4-1 victory over Belarus, and that was indeed a World Cup qualifier. In the modern game of attacking fullbacks, they are vulnerable, of course, but they're also a valuable commodity. The Karsdorp was one of several young defenders who appear to have the attributes to thrive in his given position. He has pace, which is important to get down the flank, but he's also an excellent passer and crosser of the ball, and which means meaning his runs aren't wasted, and he's also converting into goals, hence his 10 assists in that 2015-16 season. He's very composed and intelligent when defending, and is relatively good disciplinary record, but does need to improve in his aerial battles and indeed his tackling ability, where he does tend to jump in. This season, Karsdorp has made 25 appearances for Feyenoord, 1 goal and 3 assists. The youngster seems destined to be snapped up by one of the big clubs in Europe. He's been linked with Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Manchester United, among others. Not a bad record of clubs. Whether his talent will translate to arguably tougher leagues, though, remains to be seen. Okay, so John, by your own admission, he's not a player you've seen a huge amount of, and this is of course the danger of the host picking the Hipsters choices, because it means that I've picked players that I've been sad enough to see quite a lot of, and others might not have done. But what we wanted to do is, rather than talk specifically about Karsdorp, because that's what we've just done, we wanted to just sort of focus on Dutchmen abroad, because it does seem likely that he will leave Feyenoord potentially at the end of the season, because he's going to be worth big money. From your knowledge in particular in Italian football, it tends to vary, doesn't it, Dutchmen abroad? We highlighted the ultimate failure of Dennis Bergkamp back in the time when he moved to Inter, having been prolific at Ajax. The likes of Jaap Stam, and of course the legend that is Clarence Seedorf, who left Milan under, well, legendary status, let's be honest. And then you look at the managers like Frank de Boer, who really didn't work at Inter Milan either. So if you were Karsdorp, would you be booking a flight to Serie A at the end of the season, or do you think his style might be better served in a league where Dutchmen tend to perform better?
I actually think it's probably easier now than it was previously to play, particularly for a Dutch player anyway, in Serie A, because they're technically gifted enough, certainly, Dutch players, or they tend to be, but they do also have a very good understanding of systems and how they work, so they're willing to be instructed and what position you have to take up within a certain system, when to advance, when to drop, the distances between players and that kind of thing, which is key in particular in Serie A. It's different depending on the league. I think you're right in, sometimes players just don't work out in certain leagues for whatever reason. Dennis Bergkamp in particular was a very strange one, because for as poor of his time was at Inter in the league, in the European competition, he was their top goal scorer and really worked out there and helped them win a what would be the equivalent of the Europa League, the old UEFA Cup. So it's a strange one, but I think now it's a lot easier to adapt, and I think players in general, when they go abroad, have an easier time of it, because a lot of things are done for them, whereas in the past a lot more kind of onus is on the player to adapt to the country rather than things being done for them.
Yes, some very fair points there. I think he'd probably work quite well in the Premier League, weirdly, because of this attacking fullback obsession, but I think Spain is probably his most likely route. I think he would settle nicely into an Atletico Madrid or a Sevilla type of side rather than a Bundesliga or a Serie A side. I don't really think his talents would be best served there. So I know Barcelona are quite keen. I wonder if that might be the place he ends up. So one to keep an eye on, but definitely a player to have a look at. And I think Drew, of course, follows Feyenoord as his club in Holland. So if you want more information, I'm sure Drew will happily either poo-poo or praise what I've just said. So drop him a line. I'm sure he will get in touch. If you want to look back at all of our Hipsters choices, we say this every week, but if you go to our website, you can find them all under the Hipsters Choice tab. Fair to say we picked out a few good ones, haven't we, John, over the years? I mean, a few players that we've picked out that were at clubs and have moved on. I think of Geresh in particular, that we picked out early, and off he went to PSG.
We've been a bit lucky.
Yeah. That's probably fair. That's probably very fair. But and as we hinted at earlier on in the podcast, next week we're going to take a trip to Serie A for our next Hipsters Choice. We can exclusively reveal next week we're going to have a little chat about Milinkovic-Savic at Lazio. So I know you're prepped and ready for that one, John.
Oh,
so
yes.
if you do have questions on that young man, drop us a line and we'll try and get those answered next week. And as if by magic, that was a nice little segue, because we will finish the podcast as usual with your questions answered-ish. It's this week's Onion Bag. Okay, just a few questions this week, which is fortunate given we're a two-man show. We thought we'd keep the show nice and short and punchy this week. So first one is a little nod to that scorpion kick at Johnny Boy, he's probably tweeted, this is probably more of an English breakfast type of question or quote, but it's worth bringing up because we mentioned Ranieri, didn't we, earlier on, and what's going on at Leicester. He's tweeted the podcast and said, ironic, a guy called Shakespeare once wrote a play about a guy who stabbed someone in the back. Et Craig? Which of course referring to Craig Shakespeare potentially getting the Leicester job at the expense of Ranieri. So nod to you there, Johnny. Very good. Right, the questions we've got. You mentioned him earlier, Mike Folletti. He's got in touch. He wants to ask, I'm sure it's you he wants to ask this, Belotti to remain at Torino next season? ?
I think the only way that happens if Juventus buy Belotti and then loan him back to Torino. I honestly think he will move, whether it's within Italy or outside of Italy, I don't know. I think for him it's probably better to stay in Serie A for at least another season. But Roma, Napoli, Inter, Milan, all those clubs will be looking at him. He's going to cost a lot of money. And the buyout clause is only for clubs outside of Serie A, which is kind of put in to try and prevent Juventus from coming in and buying them. But we've seen that they're willing to spend big money on a player if they want to. They don't necessarily need him because obviously they've got Higuain and Dybala, but Juventus are also not against selling players, despite regardless of the profile or sort of the shirt revenue and all that kind of thing that they can bring in. So we shall see. But I can't see him being at Torino. He's such a talent. Surely someone's going to snap him up.
Yes, I agree. I think there's going to be a lot of clubs in and around Europe that will be having a little sniff around his price tag, because although he's got this buyout clause, we all know that Torino will sell for the right price, don't we? So I think that buyout clause you mentioned previously is more to scare off the Italian clubs rather than abroad. So let's hope he continues his trajectory. This one comes from Korosh at Dorfguna. Or Dorf_Gunner, I should say. He said, how exciting or predictable can things get when a team plays 5 games versus 2 teams over 3 weeks? And he refers to this, he says, like Borussia Mönchengladbach versus Schalke and Hamburg. So he's put a little fixture list here. So you've got Hamburg, you've got Hamburg in the DFB Pokal against Schalke, and then you've got them in the Bundesliga, and you've got them in the Europa League. So basically, Gladbach are playing Hamburg and Schalke. Schalke 3 times and Hamburg twice in the next sort of 2 weeks. I get his point here. I suppose you could say, well, it's the luck of the draw in the cup competitions, which you can't really control. But it must be quite, I don't know, it must be quite odd for Gladbach, knowing that they've only got basically 2 oppositions in the next 5 games. That must be quite a weird experience for them.
It is slightly odd, and I think the thing that comes out of it is the interesting of how much do you change the squad depending on what competition you're in, and how differently do you approach it. Do you always go exactly the same way, which means by the time you come round to the 3rd game, for example in Schalke, have they adapted and can then combat what things they're going to expect and see from you? So I think tactically it can be quite interesting to see how it changes from game to game, but I do get his point that it could also go completely the other way and be very boring, and it could just be the same thing happens in each and every match. If the same thing happens to be Gladbach winning all of those games, I won't be bored. I can tell you that, but I do get his point. But yeah, it's just the luck of the draw. It's just very strange when the fixtures fall, and sometimes that happens.
Yeah, I'm trying to think back as an Arsenal follower. I vaguely remember Arsenal drawing the same teams in I'm sure it was, of course, Sheffield Wednesday, I suppose, is the famous one in the Cups of 92, 93. But I vaguely remember Arsenal always getting, I I can't remember. There's one club we always seem to draw, but yeah, it is a bit of a weird anomaly, isn't it? I think back to that season we drew Chelsea in the Champions League as well. That was very strange, although that brings back memories I really don't want to think about anymore. Let's move on quickly. Jimmy, we mentioned him earlier, at @NN_Guna. He wants to know about Roger Schmidt. He said, was Schmidt the main problem at Bayer, or does Rudi Völler also need to take some responsibility or share of the responsibility? It's a very good question, that, because Rudi Völler has come under a little bit of flack from some quarters. He seems to make some quite big decisions at quite inopportune moments at Leverkusen. I think back to that game with Dortmund where he went for the match officials, didn't he, in that game?
Yeah.
When the referee walked off. So do you think he has to take some of this on his shoulders?
I think the board always does when a team's underperforming. But it's like we said earlier. You look at the squad. Schmidt was given everything there and should be doing better, or should have been doing better than he was. So I do think a lot of it comes down to the manager. I think it's that awkward situation where you can't. We've as Arsenal fans have been speaking about this, but obviously Leicester fans as well, and fans of other teams in all different leagues. But ultimately, if the players don't perform on the pitch, then there's an issue with the players need to take some of the blame. But it all comes from the manager, because he picks the players and the tactics and sends them out and tells them what to do. So you can only give out a little bit there. Rudi Völler will take some of the blame, I guess, perhaps not publicly, and I'm sure he's disappointed. But ultimately, I think it comes down to the manager, and he's the one who sends the players out and chooses who gets played. I mean, I think at the weekend he didn't start Hernandez. And he didn't start Bellarabi as well, so he was really rolling the dice, because when you've got two of your best players and you're not even putting them out there, it's just it gets to the point where it's like, no, this is done now.
Yes, yeah, indeed. It does strike you as a bit of an odd situation, that one. We'll finish with a nice, fun question. Now,
I've seen this. This is good.
Have you seen this? From PG Nez, our good friend, who is a man after my own heart, a lover of French football. So he wants us to put together an 11 between PSG and Monaco combined. Now, I assume he means this season, because that would be sensible, because you could go back over the years and Monaco might not have as many players as they do today. So we're going to finish by doing this together. Right, so I'm having Subasic as my goalkeeper. Any arguments?
No, that's fine with me.
Okay, I mean, as much as Kevin Trapp is decent, I think Subasic has got the edge. Are we going to play 4-4-2, or are we going to go 4-2-3-1? I'd probably go 4-2-3-1 myself.
Can we just play 4-3-3? Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's split the difference. 4-3-3. So, who are we having as our fullbacks? Because it's quite a rich vein of area here. Because Monaco have obviously got the two informed fullbacks in Europe, arguably, in Mendy and Sidibe. So, do you want both of those, or is there a shout for? I'm Aurier previously, but I'm actually thinking Thomas Meunier is probably my vote at right back.
Yeah, I'd have Mendy and Meunier. I think would be my two.
Okay, we'll agree on that one, because our not been informed this season at all. So yeah, I think I'm agreeing with you on that one. Centre backs, this is another tough one. I think we're both going to agree on Kamil Glik.
Yep.
Just because he's Kamil Glik. But it's a tough one. Thiago Silva for me has not been great this season. Marquinhos not great either. I mean, it potentially very, very good, but has only shown it in fits and spurts. I really like Presnel Kimpembe. But Jemison has been brilliant this season for Monaco. So, I'm probably inclined to go Jemison and Glick as a partnership more than anything else.
I would have gone Marquinhos. I know he hasn't been great this season, but I think he is probably the best out of them when he performs to his top level.
Okay, I'll bow to you on that one. We'll go Marquinhos and Glick then in that case. That's fine.
I know two of our midfielders straight away.
Do you?
Yeah.
Would they be Verratti and Bernardo Silva by any chance?
Yeah, straight away.
Yeah, I can't disagree with that whatsoever. So we've only got one space to fill. This is where it gets tough. Okay, so assuming we're looking at an actual central midfielder as opposed to a wide forward, this is difficult because for me, it comes down to three. Fabinho, for obvious reasons. Bakayoko, for obvious reasons, and Adrien Rabiot for me are the three that you'd have to pick between. And Matuidi's not been good enough for me this season.
My shout goes for Fabinho.
I was going to say I think Fabinho gets it for me. It's tough on Rabiot because he's been absolutely brilliant this season.
Yeah, no, he really is.
But I think Fabinho has just taken it on to another level. And if you are assuming he is a midfielder now, because he used to be a defender. So, I think for me, just about, if it was a 4-4-2, Rabiot goes in with Fabinho. But given it's not, I think we have to go with Fabinho. So unlucky, Adrian, but keep working hard. You'll get there. Front three, if you pick Cavani, I'm going to end this podcast right now.
I knew you'd say that.
Although
I think we
probably have to.
No, I wasn't going to say that.
Okay.
My front three it's weird actually. This is the bit I found a bit easier than the rest of it, considering the amount of money and the players and whatever that everyone's got of those two teams. I thought it was quite clearly Mbappe, Falcao, and I think a certain German, Julian Draxler, who's really impressed me since he's come in.
You've gone rogue. I didn't expect that. Okay, I agree on Draxler because I think he's come in and made an immediate impact. So yeah, I think I have to agree with you there. I think there's a shout for Thomas Lemar potentially in this one, especially if a wide three. Falcao is a tough one because, like you say, he's been brilliant this season. Yeah, this is tough, isn't it? This is tough. Di Maria doesn't get near it for me. Neither does Ben Arfa. There may be an argument for Lucas Moura as well. In fits and starts, has been pretty good this season. I'll agree with you on Draxler. See, it's hard to leave Cavani out because of his goal record. But I'm happy to go with Mbappe just for what he's provided alone. I'm happy to go with Falcao. I just think it's a shame to leave out Thomas Lemar, who's been brilliant this season for Monaco, and obviously only 21 years of age. So
you can have him and Cavani on the bench. It's fine.
Yeah,
you can never bring Cavani on, and when you're not looking, I'll bring him on occasionally.
Okay, as much as I have my ribs for Cavani, I think I think you have to give Cavani the nod over Falcao, if I'm honest. As much as I like to kick and scream about it, I think as good as Falcao's been, if you're going to play two wide players in Draxler and Mbappe slightly wider, well, I suppose it's a toss-up, isn't it? It depends which way your butter's bread. Your butter's breaded? No, your bread is buttered. But
listeners, I didn't even have to argue. He's just put Cavani in the team himself.
I don't want to at all, but I find it hard. I think people would think it was a full-on agenda if I didn't. So there you go. If you're listening, PG, and I hope you are because it's your question, please let us know what yours is because I'd be intrigued to see if ours match. And if you're a fan of French football when you're listening to this, let us know. Or even if you're not a fan of French football, just pick an 11 and let us know who you would have in your Monaco PSG teams. Or indeed, if you've got a specific league you follow and you want to do it for another league, go for it. Pick your best Dortmund Schalke team or Fiorentina Lazio team or whoever you want to do. Pick two teams and mesh them together. There's loads of apps, isn't there, in this technological world where you can put players onto formations. So do it, tweet it to us, and we will give you our thoughts and retweet them. So there you go. Right, I think that's all the questions we got this week. Apologies if you didn't see the tweet earlier on. We're recording early this week due to various bits and bobs and circumstances. So if you didn't get a question in this week, at the FH podcast, get one in for us next week. We'll do our best to answer it for you. Just the one plug, obviously, our usual plug, our partners, classicfootballshirts.co.uk. The mission to get you into a Deportivo Wanker shirt, John, is still ongoing. We're still waiting for our first person to buy a shirt and send us a picture. I think our friend Dan Vagoon has bought one, but we haven't had the picture yet. So if you do buy something from them, please let us know. We will tweet it and we'll begin the countdown again to get John his shirt. Remember, 10% off if you use the code, which I'm frantically searching for. I found this pre-pod and now it's disappeared. Where's it gone? Here it is. So if you use the code CFSAW10, you get 10% off your order. And remember, if you're in a foreign country and you want us to buy it for you in the UK, well, not buy it for you. If you send us the money, we will purchase it in UK and we'll send it abroad. We can't say fairer than that for you. So there you go. Right, that will do us, I think, for this week, John. So thank you for sort of holding the fort as just the two of us tonight. Hopefully people won't be too bored of our voices by now. We've shortened it a little bit for you, so we did our best, boys and girls. Just a quick thanks to our usual crew who work behind the scenes, Kat and Var on our graphics and website, Kelly for work on Hipsters Choice, and also Gaz for, frankly, doing his job. And, we don't really need to give him any thanks because, he should be doing this. But in all seriousness, thanks to Gaz for his work as well. And, of course, thanks to you, John, because people might not know, but you do our uploads on a Sunday night. So I do appreciate it, even though I mock you on a regular basis. So thank you to you, and of course to Drew on his birthday, and to Gav, who's away this week. So thank you to the whole crew, and of course Ross and Josh and James and all the other guys who do the English breakfast as well. So it is very much a team effort at the Hipsters Pod. Right, we'll draw a line there then. Thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, enjoy your football. Let us know if you're going to a game. You'll get a shout out from us, as did our friend in Germany this week. So let us know if you're going to a game, or if you're just watching it. Tweet us your thoughts. Keep them coming. Keep the debate running. We'll be back with another episode of the English Breakfast at the end of the week, and another podcast this time next week. So until then, my thanks to John. Keep your head strong and your glasses trendy, and we'll speak to you very soon.